All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Houston in Action. Today, we're going to do a training around text banking for voter mobilization, all the efforts that you need. Some of y'all might be familiar with the work that, with the trainings, with the portion of the training that we're going to be giving today, but I know that there's some new people who are joining us that will hopefully find a lot of this information not only useful, but very, very knowledgeable and important. But before we get started, we would love for y'all to get to know each other too, and to share your thoughts. 20 days to the election. It's like every day we're getting closer and closer. And we would like to hear from y'all about how y'all are feeling about the first day of early voting. So today is the 13th, and we know that they extended the time for early voting, and today people can actually vote. And some of my friends have actually mentioning today that on their way to I was gonna say on their way to work, but everybody's working from home now. But in the way to pick up their kids and to get some stuff this morning, they actually noticed some very long lines at some polling places. And a big shout out to H-Town Power, and I know Miss Mona is out there at the polls right now. So I know that people might be excited in seeing so many people who are already registered to vote and voting early, which is a very, very good thing that we need right now. So if you want to share in the chat portion your name, your pronouns, organizations, and please share how you're feeling about the first day of early voting. While y'all are introducing yourselves, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. My name is Oscar Hernandez. I am a community organizer with Houston in Action. I've been doing a lot of work for many years revolving around immigrants' rights, but as an organizer for Houston in Action, I'm really, really fortunate to be working with a lot of amazing people because I care a lot about our community, especially folks who our immigrant community who, much like me, are also undocumented. I've been undocumented for almost all my life now, living here in Texas for over 20 years. But I can share that when I was growing up, I actually lived in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Most people only know Scranton, Pennsylvania because of The Office, and my dad was a custodian for many, many years while we were there. And I can say that I did not know it was undocumented or what it meant growing up. But one day I remember in the apartments where we lived in, my mother, she got my older brother, myself, and my younger sister, and she took us outside the apartments. And in Scranton, every street has an alley. So she walked us behind the apartments to this alley, and she pointed down the alley, and she lined us up like a row of ducks. And then she started to talk. And what she said was, if one day you see that your father and I are being put into this big white bus, she said, I want you to take this alley and I want you to walk to your grandmother's house. She said, don't run, walk. And I can say that I didn't understand what she was referring to at the time. I thought, I go to school every day, I get on a bus, like what's the big deal? But I was about maybe 7 years old when she told us that. And it was really hard for me to comprehend that being undocumented in this country, what impacts that has. But I do know that things changed after that. And in my mind, all I could think about was that just being in the US, it didn't matter whether I did good or bad, just existing here meant that someone in my family could disappear. So that affected me growing up as a whole. It's also reasons why I didn't want to go to school and why I didn't go to college, and I didn't want to continue my studies because I felt that none of that was actually going to matter. But things do change as I met a lot of organizers and people within our community who are fighting for justice and equality, and then understanding politics a lot better, but more than anything, getting rooted with my culture and my people and my communities. And I have about 7 nephews right now. So everything I do, I keep them in mind because they're about my age when I had to go through a lot of these experiences, and I want them to have a better life. And this is why the elections matter to me. This is why I think everyone who can vote today, do your best to do so, because it will impact the future generations to come. So I want to thank all of you for coming and for joining the training today. And I hope that as we're messaging and talking to people that we could keep this in mind. With that said, what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be covering over our equities, Houston, our culture, our communications, We'll be talking about C3, C4 laws, which is important to review every time we get together. How we're reaching and who are we reaching into our community. We're going to review the script. This is going to be a lot different from the ones that are the calls, and then the hustle. I know it says start making calls, but we're actually going to be texting today for the trainings for y'all who are coming in. So yeah, let's get this thing over with. I heard you, Daniel. So I see, I'm also seeing that some folks might be having trouble logging in. So Blanca, if you can just check again, make sure that people are getting the registration, because some folks might either be coming in a bit late or might not have gotten the registering. But thank you for messaging us. We'll make sure that everybody gets the information they need. So while we're fixing that and make sure that people are jumping in, I'm gonna go through Houston in Action and what we are. We're a collective or impact organization, which is really all of y'all as the different nonprofit organizations within our membership, that we're here to work collectively to make an impact in our communities. We know that there are barriers, systemic barriers, that don't allow most of our communities, or not all of our communities, to participate. So we want to challenge that, and working together with these different nonprofit organizations that are connected to our communities to make sure that they have the resources that they need to challenge this. We always start our meetings with our working principles. We want to stay grounded within these working principles. And for today's working principles, as we're making sure that everyone has accessibility to this training, as well as accessibility to everything, I want to focus on accessibility, which is creating a space and communications which are accessible to every participant. We want to make sure that everything that we have, it's not just open to like large established nonprofits, but also open to organizations who are starting up, who might need some more support, and even to just community members. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. So with this in mind, within the working principles, I want to talk about what our voter mobilization agreements are. So for one, we do want everyone to take these really seriously. Our agreements for our trainings, you might have seen this before, which I hope you have, and I hope you keep in mind, and I hope as you're talking to your different partners and members or volunteers within your space, that they also are reminded about how we want them to participate as volunteers. So for starting off, we want everyone to know that everything that we see on scripts, on screen, that is shared to you via text, like, it's completely confidential and will not be shared outside this text banking. This is a nonpartisan voter mobilization effort, which means that we're not telling people who to vote for or against. We want to make sure that people don't share their own personal partisan beliefs, and make sure that you can share your story or the issues or the things that you care about. That you definitely can't do, but for texting, it's going to work a little different, since it will be logged in within the messages that we have. We also want to make sure that you send any issues, and this is specifically different for texting than it has been for calls. It will go through the process of what it's going to look like for calls. I'm sorry, for texting, because the message you're going to get through texting is going to be widely different. But definitely want to make sure that we're collecting these issues, what people are sending you, that your organizational lead or your HIA or us as HIA staff know how to follow up. We also are asking people to not talk to media on behalf of HIA unless you're trained by our staff or your organizational lead. We definitely do want you to talk to your organizational lead. We definitely do. We definitely want you to talk to media as well, and to talk to the news, to talk about everything that you're experiencing. But we want to make sure you get the proper training to do so. So if anyone here is interested, we'll be more than happy to follow up. But I do want to recognize too that I'm seeing people sharing stuff within the chat. And I see Dorothy said, as I'm experiencing so many emotions today, the elections have always been very important to me. I believe my voice is heard when I have the opportunity to use it. My generation before me fought for me to be heard. That matters. I must continue and pass the torch. Thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, for sharing that. And I think that there is a lot of emotions happening today. I've had even trouble sleeping about how the lines are going to get a little crazy, and then part excitement and part worry, as it is with where we are. and how tricky it has been. But I do want to make sure that we acknowledge that, yes, today's the beginning of something major that's going to happen. As every election is important, but we're seeing a big shift in the process for this election specifically. So thank you for sharing that, Dorothy. So how we're going to be communicating. So for one, I want to make sure that that we know that for text banking, you can use your phone. You can download the app, so you could definitely text through your phone. You'll be able to use laptops, your desks. What we do want to make sure is that we have a valid email and a phone number to be using this, because I know we're going to be using a system called Hustle. Some of you might be familiar with it. Some of you might not have been familiar with it at all. We'll get more in tone with what Hustle is. But I do want to let you know that if you used it before, we want to make sure of a couple of things. One is that if you had it before, that that if you have it under one phone number and one email, you might change your phone number or change that email, you might have to contact Hustle. So we'll help you so you have the right way to follow up with them. So by this, we mean, for me, I started doing Hustle under Houston in Action. I have my same phone number I've had since high school, but the email I had previously was under a different organization that I work with. So I couldn't have access to Houston in Action information because even though I was using my same phone number, the email was different. So I had a email Hustle to go through this pretty quick process for them to change my email, and then I had access to the Hustle that Houston in Action has. And the same thing works if you have a new phone number, but you're using the same email. So that's a simple step, but there's always been a lot of confusion with that. So if you're trying to log into Hustle and you can't, that might be one of the most typical issues that you're going to be seeing. But you can find the app, the Hustle app, in any of your local app stores. It's a joke, not a funny joke, but still there. So you can go through your iPhone or your Android. Access will be provided during the training session. So people will need to come through these trainings so they can get access to the Hustle. We want to be careful with who has access to this Hustle, as we don't want the wrong people to get access to this, which is why we're also a little careful about who's joining the trainings. If you do not have participate there, if you cannot participate during the training, you will not get access. So if people can't come to our trainings to get this, they won't be able to gain the access. But once you have access to Hustle, you don't have to come to every single training. You'll be able to go through the process in the systems, and we'll be able to make sure that you have access to that Hustle. We just need to make sure we know who's getting access to it. Okay. So following your questions. So this is for all volunteers, as we've seen it before. If there's any volunteers here that have any issues, that cannot, they don't know how to use their phone, or they don't know where the App Store is. Like I said, if you have had access previously during voter registration, is it still required to join a new training session? Yes, Crystal. We want to make sure that the people are in tone with the C3, C4 conversations we're doing. These trainings are a little different, and we also want to make sure that we're tracking who are the volunteers that stayed on. This is just so we don't end up sharing the link with people who haven't been trained properly. And I think you've been part of our C3, C4 trainings before, but we do want to make sure that everyone either revisits that as much as possible, or at least that they get a refresher before they start doing the mobilization testing. But thank you for asking. So if you have any issues with your timesheets, or you want to make sure that your volunteer hours get counted, you need to talk to your organizational lead, as they will be making sure that you get the information you need. But if you have any issues with Hustle, or we'll be using everything through the voter engagement table-based camp, and I actually do have that open right now to make sure that we can keep track of what questions are coming in. So if there's any issues, please use that place. And they also refer to the voter mobilization system of frequently asked questions. We have a new one specifically for texting, for text banking. So if you have any questions, please just let us know. We are here to support any efforts you might have. Okay. We have caller connection times. We changed the time up a little bit based on people's availability. Our new times are Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 1:30 to 2. This time is open. We want to hear if you're hearing anything at all from the calls, from texts, if you have any concerns, if it's something that you find helpful, if you have suggestions for us to improve the trainings, we want to hear everything that's coming your way. But also if you heard any weird questions and if you received any alarming texts. So what do we mean by alarming texts and weird questions? Well, here's the thing.
Committee is the committee that you're working with this morning.
Oscar, has my team missed this text banking training because we were on another link?
Oh, okay. Well, we're just getting started, Tana. I'm not sure what happened, but I did get that message from a couple of people. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I'm glad you're in right now. And are they able to join us right now? Or
I'm hoping so, because I just Crystal just sent everybody the link.
okay.
Yeah, Diana just got in. I just got Diana in. I've been in, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Miss Diana got here. She was one of the first persons in here, so I'm not sure what happened with the links. Some weird stuff happens with Zoom sometimes, so that could have been it. But I don't know how to answer that. But I'm glad you're in, and we haven't gone through the system portion yet. We're just getting started within the process and how to address it. So and we also, Tana, we are recording this training, so we'll make sure to put it in the video a voter engagement table Basecamp, so and on our YouTube channel, so y'all can review it as well. But thank you for bringing it up. So here are weird questions. And I know that some of you have already gone through some of this process with us, but if you're on a text banking and somebody responds to you with a question like, who should I vote for? How would y'all respond to this? And these are more questions that if you see them, because through Hustle, you will be able to text people, but we want to really encourage people to stay within the script, so you're only responding with the appropriate script responses. But we also want you to have the knowledge of how to respond to this. So if someone texts you, who should I vote for? How would you respond?
Oscar, this is Jessie Mona. For me, and what I have been doing is I would give them like mylegalwomenvoters.org has a ballot, or Harris Votes has a sample ballot, and you know, walk them through that or tell them to go on that ballot and look through it. And I also tell them, if you don't know who to vote for, you can look the candidates up. You can Google them. You can go on Ballot P.
Yes, Ms. Mona, you kind of froze there at the end, but I think you're on the right track. Giving people general information is important, and you can definitely give them sample ballots, send them the links, and so they can figure out who they're going to vote for themselves. What we don't want to do is encourage anyone to vote for a specific candidate or party, because that falls out of the guidelines of C3, C4, which we're going to talk about that in a bit. And this is actually a very common text that people have gotten, which is, do you still want me to vote even if I'm voting for X candidate? That's a very typical response that we don't know why we're getting that, or what the idea of people who are receiving these texts of us have been, but we do receive that a lot. So how would y'all respond to that text? Any thoughts?
Yeah, go vote.
Yeah, just go vote. Did you say don't vote, Daniel, or what did you say?
I said, yeah, just go and vote.
Yeah.
I don't care who you vote for.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's not about, this is a nonpartisan space. I see someone writing, say thanks and encourage them to tackle others, stay cool stories. Okay, say cool story, bro. Yes, the cool story, bro, is not a bad approach. But I would say that as what we're trying to talk to people, this is a nonpartisan space. So try to remember the nonpartisan. If you haven't used that language, so that's not part of your vocabulary, get used to it for these spaces, as people might be texting you, because this is a nonpartisan space. So if they're gonna go vote, just go vote, to Danielle's point. So thank you for that. And then you should vote for whoever you want, as long as you vote for someone, you're making a difference. Thank you, Crystal. Yes, that's even like a more of a personal approach of how you talk about it, which I definitely think it's totally fine for you to say that, because that still falls within the C3, C4 guidelines. You're not telling anyone to vote for or against anything. So thank you so much, Daniel, Mesa, Daniel Candelaria, and Crystal. Oh, if they have had access previously during voter registration, it is still required that they join in. Oh, yeah, sorry, that was a previous question, but thank you so much. So then this is one of the most unusual questions that we've gotten. Somebody brought it up during the training, which is who is the most Christian candidate? So for this one, I will say that thanks to the texting portion, you will not probably deal with questions like this because you won't necessarily have to respond to it, but this is also a very subjective like question. Like, it's not technically any C3, C4 guidelines. Like, they're not asking about a party line or anything like that. However, this does like tend to give a perception of party lines. So we want to make sure that if you can like deflect or just not even answer at all, say it's a nonpartisan space, go vote. That's one of the best responses you can do. And we also want to send people general information about it. But if you have any weird questions or anything like that, please make sure that your organizational lead knows about it, and that they're able to message Anna McNall or myself. But we also might have some upset people through the text. So how do we respond to upset people? So you might get texts that say like, you texted me 1,000 times already, or I'm going to sue you, or remove me from the list. How would y'all respond to something more aggressive like this? Or how would you feel if you like text thinking with all your heart and then someone sends you a message, I'm going to sue you, stop texting?
I just say, okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Yes, it's a good approach. De-escalating the situation.
Yes, and I've had that. This is Dorothy, and I usually say, so sorry to disturb you, and I won't be texting you again.
Yeah, and that's important. So, like how we approach them. So, is really, really important too. But I will like to keep in mind if this is a peace of mind for everyone. Would someone else want to share something?
Well, I just wanted to say, Oscar, and the one thing for me is I don't take it personally. So, it's not like a personal attack on me. And when I look at it that way, it doesn't, I just take it with a grain of salt. So, yeah.
Thank you, Dorothy. Someone else wanted to share something?
I just wrote in the chat, this is Crystal, that I've actually gotten, and I'm sure other folks have too, like cussed out. So like the actual F-U. And so, yes, as the previous person said, I don't take it personal, but sometimes it throws you off and I'm like, F you too. But I don't say that. But that's a natural reaction. But I just opt them out if they are aggressive that way.
Yeah, definitely we want to opt people out if they're aggressive, and you might get those responses. And I know that I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or make anyone feel like they're doing anything wrong, because we're not. Like, technically, like, we're able to text people about this. We're not selling them anything. So we're able to talk to them about the elections. We're able to give them this information. So that is totally fine what we're doing. They, even if they say they're going to sue us, they can't sue us over anything. Or they could, even if they were to try, like, it's very dismissible. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. But you will get some upset people. You might get some people cursing at you, and you might get, and I know that sometimes like this energy might mess with your day. But I think like Crystal shared, like, if you read a text that says F you, you might be like F you too, but you don't want to text them that, right? You just want, thank you, I'll remove you from the list, and we will be removing people. But I do want to make sure that everyone here is aware, like, we can see what your replies are to people. I guess Houston in action, if you ever reply to somebody, we'll be able to, in the back end, to see what that reply was. Because it's important for us to keep track of what's happening, just in case someone who hasn't been trained is responding to people inappropriately. We want to be able to catch that and flag it for y'all knowledge. So keep that in mind. If you do get like very encouraged to respond to somebody, calm down, and we will be keeping track of it. The other thing is that do not argue with anyone at all. Don't argue with anyone for anything. If they don't want to receive any text, we will opt them out. That's totally fine. They won't receive any more text from us. And they will be removed from the list. But some people might say that they got text 1,000 times for us. It's not true. for most of this, for this portion, it might be the first time we're texting them. Some of them, we might have texted them over voter registration, but not over voter mobilization. And so this is a different part of the campaign. But for the most part, you will be getting a lot of new numbers. And if you feel unsafe at all, please tell your organizational lead and tell HIA staff. We do want to take these seriously. If you're uncomfortable, if something bad is happening, we want to be able to track that to help you and to make sure that you're comfortable and that you feel safe while you're doing these messages. So if anything comes up, just please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be more than happy to help and adjust things as needed. Any last thoughts or questions around this? Okay, I'm gonna go back into into C3, C4. I'm gonna try to do this a bit quick, since I know some of you have gone through this portion of the training before, but I would love to hear from y'all. I'd love to hear more from y'all if y'all want to give any input or share any thoughts. So one, remember, just like our calls, this is a C3 text banking. So you cannot endorse a candidate. So if someone does say, I'm voting for X candidate, do you still want me to vote? You can't respond with, no, vote for the other one. That's not how we can't do that. We would be breaking C3 tax laws if we do that, and we could all get into a lot of trouble. So this is nonpartisan voter mobilization effort. That's what we're trying to do. There are many organizations who have both C3 and C4, and C4 is more of a for-profit who can move things differently. And through C4, you can endorse candidates, you can donate directly to candidates, and sometimes if you see PAC or super PACs, those are very similar to C4 processes. So this is not a C4 space. We're doing everything under nonprofit 501c3. So we do want you to engage in advocacy, in issue advocacy. So you'll see some of the scripts that would just be encouraging people at first just to vote, we want you to share general information, follow the script, and send any word questions to your lead. This is a lot different than our calls, because the script one you will be able to just click and just send a specific text. So you don't even have to put a lot of thought into how you're talking to people, just reading what they're saying and making sure that the right message is received from them. Please don't share anything about supporting a specific candidates. Your answer, if you have any weird questions, please make sure that we know about it, and don't text back if you're not comfortable. That's really, really important. If you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, just do not respond and let us know. We'll be more than happy to follow up. I'm not trying to scare anyone. Typically, most of you probably won't even get any bad text messages back. You just occasionally it does happen, and it happens more than we'd like, but for the most part it's just people who don't want to be texted. So it shouldn't be anything heavy. So this is also the reason that we want to make sure that for C3, C4 trainings that everyone's getting the appropriate amount of training for this. We're also asking everyone here on the call to make sure that if you have volunteers, that they get more trainings as much as possible to know what to share and what not to share. So vet your volunteers thoroughly, so you know who's joining. So
but I'm not good at it.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Stuff like you are good at it.
Monica, I'm not sure if you have a question or if you unmute yourself. Okay. So vet your volunteers, so we know that they have your values and your best interests in mind for the trainings. So so that way when they come into the space, that even though they might be very excited for a specific candidate or a specific party, that they're not going in here telling people no vote for this, or encouraging people to break C3 laws. Okay, so does anyone have any questions around C3, C4? Because I think I went a little faster this time on it because we started a bit late, but I wanted to see if anything came up while we were talking through the training. Okay, if you do have any questions, I'll make sure to review the chat portion and we can follow up accordingly. So reaching out to our community. So who are we reaching out to? So we're to want to talk to registered voters within Harris County, specifically in communities of color, specifically low propensity voters. Now, even though this is like specific demographics, it's not just that simple, right? When we talk about registered voters in communities of color, really what we mean is that that when we're calling out and texting a lot of the folks, what we're trying to do is have a system change to text or disenfranchised communities that are historically excluded. So this means that it's going to be difficult, or we're going to be texting people who do not want to talk to us sometimes, who do not want to receive these text messages, or don't know what to do. So we want to make sure that you're comfortable and keep that in mind when responding to people. So a lot of people that we're going to text might not text back at all. We have an average of around 3 text response. So we're trying to make sure that the scripts, we give them everything they need by the 3rd text, because most texts drop off after 3 texts. So even though most people might not respond, even when they do, you might only get up to 3 responses from them. They also might respond very negatively to your text, and they might ask you to stop texting them. All that is part of the text banking experience as we are messaging people. Now, this is like what I like to remind people of. Like, I know I get a lot of calls, unwanted calls, and even many times text messages from people that I'm either ignoring or just not replying to them at all. Well, we're on the other side of that, but we're not doing this to sell anything to anyone. We're doing this to encourage people to vote and to make sure that they have everything they need to vote. So one thing we want to keep in mind too, that this is more than just a presidential race. Ms. Mona had brought it up early in the call about sample ballots, and then who else is in the election. It's not just about who we're voting for president. We're talking about senator, sheriff, district attorney, judges, a lot of different judges, county clerk in the Texas Supreme Court, and then depending where they are, it might be there's the school board. Like a lot of these things are changing within these different communities. So this is more than just the presidential race, and I'll share the sample ballot within the training in the chat as well in a bit. Does anyone have any questions so far about who we're calling or texting, sorry, and then who are we following up with, or C3, C4? Okay, awesome. Blanca, if you're on, I'm gonna pass it on to Blanca so she can go through our reviews of the script, as well as our going through the hustle portion of it. And you tell me, and I'll switch. I'll be managing the PowerPoint, Blanca. Just let me know when you want me to change.
Yes, thank you. You can go to the next slide. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. So we're gonna be texting people within our community, like Oscar mentioned. Right now, what are we using? For those of you who have not used a peer-to-peer texting system in the past, right? We are using a system that stay within, the FCC laws that we have to follow to enable in order for us to text people. So this system allows us to text a list of people, right? The list is assigned to you or your group, right? Your group of agents within your organizations. So you can text all of them quickly with pre-created scripts and pre-created responses as well, so we can quickly reach out to as many people as possible, in this case specifically about the elections. Now, the good thing about these systems like this is, while we do need your phone number an email address for you to have an account, we don't, the system doesn't use it to text them, right? It doesn't use your caller ID, like your phone number as the caller ID. When people reply to you, they're not replying to your phone, they're replying back into the system, right? And while we do have sometimes the text campaigns connect you back to your phone, as in if someone calls, it will connect to your phone. It is not calling your phone number, it's calling the system, right? And it's calling into the app. So the person doesn't know your phone number, they will never see it, right? So you're secure, right? So you're not able, you don't have to share your personal information with anyone. If you can move on to the next slide, Oscar. So the script, for those of you who have been making calls, right? This is, we're trying to stay within the same questions that we're doing within the script, because of course it's the same campaign. However, it is not going to be as long because of course it's text. We need to make it short. We need to try to make it sweet as much as we can, but we're still trying to ask people, right, to commit, to go out and vote. We're still trying to convince people when they say no, through an issue, right? Asking them what is something that they care about, and telling them, you know, these people make decisions on things that you care about. So it's still going back to the C3's options, right, of how we can convince a person to go out and vote. And like Oscar mentioned, these are people who don't want to be texted, right? So and don't want to go out and vote. So when they don't want to go out and vote, we still want to, you know, make an effort to try to change their mind. Unlike the calls, we have, it feels like less, right, like space to actually have like a longer conversation, but we still want to try. So some of the questions that we're asking is, you know, will you commit to vote, right? Like actually that's the first question, the initial message that we're sending out. The vote method, we're not being specific about the vote method, right? So we do have tags, and we'll show you in a little bit to track that, but how with the question itself, we're not necessarily asking it specifically. We are asking though if the person has a valid voter ID. This is a very important question that we need to make sure that we ask everyone who has said, yes, I'm gonna go vote, right? If the person is not sure, we need to make sure that they are connected with Vote Riders, another nonprofit organization that focuses on helping eligible voters if they have needs on, you know, identifying a valid voter ID, so they can go out and vote, right? So very important question that we're gonna have. We're still asking people to talk to others about the elections. Like I said, it's not necessarily one of like our main questions, but if someone says I already voted, we definitely want to get a commitment from them to share, you know, the importance about elections to other people. In this case, we're not asking for permissions for automated messages. We decided to leave it out because we are texting people, right? Even though it's not automated, there's a person texting. But just for the sake of making it like shorter, our scripts. Now the voter resources, while we're not specifically sending everything to them, well, actually we are sending everything to them, but we're not specifically asking, hey, are you gonna vote early, so we can then just give them specific information about the polling locations. We're giving them a link. Hey, you know, I'm glad you're voting. Here's the link where you can find information about early vote, mail-in ballots, and the like. Now, if the person has questions more specifically about them, right? Let's say that they don't have internet, don't want to use their data, or they just don't want to go into the link, right? And they rather you give them that information. We're providing that, right? So we do still want you to know where are these resources. So if the person, for whatever reason, doesn't want to or can't follow those links, then you have the opportunity to share that information with them, and then you know how to find it. And just like with the scripts that are for the calls, right? We'll have the links there, and they're the same links, right? Houston in Action is one of the links, and of course the county's website, as well as the Vote Riders. But Houston in Action, you know, made up a page where they have everything together. Again, the Vote Riders, and I don't know why it says they're Vote Riders, but Vote Riders, right? This is a nonprofit organization that follows up with people who don't have a valid ID or they're unsure. We're gonna forward that information to them so they can follow up with people. And then of course we have the COVID resources as well, right? The same ones that we have on the script for the calls are the same resources that we have for in the text, right? Of course, like as I mentioned earlier, in the text we have a lot less conversation in theory because it's through text, so we're not able to just say it. If you can go, I think, to the next slide, Oscar. So for our text, so what we're doing here, also just similar as with the script, with the dials, we want you to have, oh, you posted already, thank you, Oscar, for, oh no, this is a different one. We have a script that we want you to keep open, right? Now, once you're familiar with it, you don't have to, but it's mostly so you can know where are the resources for the text, where are the available resource text scripts in what you're doing, right? Sorry, this thing, it's not giving me the link. There you go. So I'm gonna post it in the chat. There you go. And I posted in the chat. And these are the scripts for the text. However, you'll have them all in Hustle. So for Hustle, if you can go to the next slide, I think I hear. Okay, yes. So for Hustle, and Oscar mentioned this earlier as well, right? We need to make sure that you have a laptop, desktop, Chromebook, iPads, tablets, iPhones, mobile phones. All of it works, right? Hustle is very you can use it on anything pretty much. So just make sure you're using a Chromebook or a desktop, right? Where if you're using the browser, please make sure it's just up to date. But for the most part, you shouldn't have any issues with it. You also need to have a valid email and a mobile phone number, valid mobile number. And the link to access it, you will be receiving it from us. And actually, John is right now working on giving you access. So I do want to mention that for those of you who did not sign in through our online page, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer because we do need your phone number. All right, so we're going to ask you in a little bit to make sure that you sign in. You sign in into our online page so we can get your phone number and give you access to Hustle. Now, those of you who have previously used Hustle for our voter registration campaign, we still don't we have this campaign like completely separate. They are not talking to each other. So even if you already had access before, you will not automatically have access to this. Right? So that's why it's very important that when you come to the training and also that you're signing in into the form, the signing form that it's on our calendars. Okay, so I think if you go next, I think I just need to go. Okay, yes. So if you're using a laptop, desktop, you can use the web browser. And to use your web browser, you need to go to this URL, right? web.hustle.com. If you are using a mobile device, a tablet, iPad, iPhone, Android phone, any smartphone, you can download the app. Please try to use the app if you are using a mobile device. Don't try to use the browser. The browser is not designed for mobile devices, and it will look funny, and then you have to scroll to the side, and it will not really be the best experience. So please, if you are using a mobile device, download the app. It's a free app, right? And these are the logos for Hustle. So if you're in the App Store, this is the one on the left-hand side. If you're in the Play Store, right, this one on the right-hand side. Just type in Hustle and you should be able to download it. Now, both of them, either on the web or on the app, you will sign in the same way. Your email is going to be your username. And of course, the password is going to be whichever password you use to sign in into Hustle. Okay, so I'm gonna be, I think here's where I share my screen. Can you go to the next screen, just to make sure?
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
When I download the Hustle app, it wouldn't let me in. It's like it wouldn't let me in with my email. It kept saying make new password.
Okay, so let us finish this and then we'll come back to troubleshooting. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I want to just let me share my screen really quick. Share my screen. Okay. So to log in, right on now, this is the web application, the web part. We do have on the training also a link for you to watch a short video. It's a 3-minute video if you're using the mobile device. For the most part, it works the same way, right? Very similar. So you will not have any issues from moving from one to the other. I personally prefer the web browser, right? Because I have a bigger screen, I can see everything in one place. While the mobile device is still good, I actually prefer, to see everything in one place. Now, when you sign in, you will see three things: replies, and I actually think there are four, to-dos, recently completed, and any new upcoming workflows, right? So for those of you who have not used Hustle in the past, for the most part, you'll see first on the to-dos. You'll see here, like when you're trying to begin sending messages, and I think I'm gonna change the names on this just to make sure, for those of you that were using voter registration doesn't get confusing. But you will have the name of the campaign, right? The workflow that you're working on, and it will tell you to begin sending messages, right? So all you had to do is click on begin sending messages, and you will first see the initial message. You will see also like a follow-up message, right? If you had previously talked to them, like what it will be a follow-up message. Here you can edit the text. If for whatever reason, let's say there was a typo, one, let us know. Second, you can change it here as well. You can click on edit, and you can change, you know, if there's a typo or anything that you want to say here. However, please stay within the guidelines. Make sure we need to identify ourselves, who we're with, and of course, we cannot change this question. If you like, this questions needs to keep consistent because that's where they're responding and what's their data that we're tracking. Okay. Here, do not change the contact name and agent name. That's going to be replaced by the persons we're trying to reach, and this agent name is going to be replaced by your name. Once you make the changes, just click save and click continue, and it's going to load the list, the first person that you need to text. At the top, you'll see their name, right? This is Rodney Glover. If you click on show profile, their profile is going to appear at the bottom. I mean, at the bottom on the right hand side, and you just scroll down to the bottom and you see all of the different information on the record. Now, the only reason I'm leaving their address visible is because if they ask you, right, to specifically look for the polling location, you can find that information, like their voting address, and use that. Of course, you will confirm with them that that's still their voting address, but you'll have it available so you can find their closest polling location. If you are already sending message, right? Actually, if you go here at the bottom, just scroll down, you will see this option right here at the bottom to just click send. So this is your initial message, right? So all of them will have the initial message, and as you can see here, it's already replaced by the name. Hi, Charles. This is Blanca with Houston in Action. Early vote has started. Make your voice heard by voting for politicians who will stand for the issues you care about. Will you be voting in the upcoming elections? Right, so that is our initial message. And all we have to do is click send. So I'm just gonna start clicking send right here, right? And as you can see, every time I click send, this is replaced by the next person. This is a different contact. This is like, all of this is changing because now I'm on my next record, right? So all you're doing is clicking send, 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 and this profile here. And then here on the right hand side, it just tells you, like, out of the 100 conversations that you have right now in your queue, you have sent 11, right? So you can just keep clicking send, 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 and you will just keep sending messages to the next person. Once the person has replied, you will be able to then answer or capture the answers that they give you. The first one that we always want to make sure that we capture is, of course, the response for this question, right? Will you be voting? For those, we're gonna come on the right-hand side where you have this little face icon, is the emojis, I think, icon. You have a clipboard, and you also have a chat. So if you click on, let's say, the chat, the clipboard, right? Let me just go down. Oops. Okay, it's because this person has not responded. Let me go into my conversation so I can show you that. Right, so if you click on a person's name, right, and the reason I'm going back here is because the person has not responded, so that's why it's not able to show it to me on the other side. But once you click on a person's name, let's say Joe Sweet, he had replied. If I click on the clipboard, it shows up the responses that we have for the will you vote in the upcoming elections. And the first one is yes, right? Yes, I will vote. I'm undecided to vote. No, I will not vote. I already voted. I will not click on these responses right now because every time I click on it, once I click on it, it sends data back into our system. But once you click yes, a script is going to show up that it has already a pre-created script for when they reply yes, right? Once they click yes, it's gonna show up here. And just to show you how it worked there, let me go back to the icon. So I'm gonna just click on the icon because this one actually doesn't send the data. It's just pre-fills the script. So I click on my chat icon and I see all the different available scripts that I already have, right? So if I had said, if that person had said, yes, I am voting, when I click on the yes response, this script is gonna show up here. If they had say undecided, the undecided response is gonna show up here, right? Now, once you click on it, it doesn't automatically send it. So let's say that this person said that they had a wrong number, and I say, and I come to my scripts to the wrong numbers, I click on it, right? If you see it, it's here. It is not sent. It doesn't send it until I click this blue button. So all the scripts that you have, regardless if you choose it from the options of the yes, no, undecided, and I already voted, or if you choose it from the script options, right? The chat, this little chat icon, it will only pre-fill this part here. It will not send it until you click send. When you click send, then of course it sends it and the other person sees that response. But once again, if they respond to this question, will you be voting for the upcoming elections? Click on the clipboard and choose one of these responses, right? If they say yes, choose yes. If they say undecided, choose undecided, and so on. Once you have here the response, you can still edit the response. Let's say you want to add an emoji or whatever the case, right? You add it, you make the changes that you want to. Once again, you stay everything within C3, no partisan work, and then you click send and the person will receive their reply. Now, nobody of the people who I texted replied, so it's making it a little bit more difficult to show you how the replies work. But all you have to do, once again, you select it, the script is going to pre-fill, and then you click send and the person receives it. Now, like I mentioned, these are the first responses that we want if they reply to this question, right? If they say, yes, I'm voting or whatever. If they reply, this is a wrong number, right? Or you have the wrong person, remove me from your list, or other things, we have replies here. Please read them all, and this is part of that document that I share you on. Those are the replies that we already have. But we want to also track those things, right? We want to track if they say this is a wrong number because we need to mark that in our database. If they say do not text me, remove me from your list, stop, we want to make sure that we opt them out, right? Because they are telling us not to text them again, so we will not. And how do we do that? So we do that on the right-hand side. In order for us to make sure that we put them as wrong number, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to tags on the right-hand side, and we're gonna choose the response that they're giving us, right? So as you can see here, we have if they're voted by mail, no, if they don't have a valid ID. Now, for the valid ID, if they are unsure, or if they don't have a valid ID, just put no valid ID. We'll send both to both writers for them to follow up. It's like for us, it's the same thing. So just put here, no valid ID. If you're not able to communicate with them, we do have a script for it that it contains some phone numbers that person can call to, but please put here other language. If the person, they say, oh, that person is dead, please mark them as deceased. If the person responds, oh yes, I will share my, like the importance of voting with other people, right? That's part of the question. If they already voted, we respond, great. Will you share with other people about the, them voting? If they say yes, We're gonna then mark here that these people are willing to share with others the importance of voting. If they say that it's a wrong number, we want to add the wrong number tag. If they say that they moved, right, they're no longer here in Texas, in Houston, or whatever, let's add them as moved, right? And we're gonna mark those records as moved in our database. And of course, if the person wants to be followed up with after the elections, then please put this follow-up yes. Now, again, as you can see, I'm not really clicking on any of the, if you add, let's say by mistake, one of these ones, you can still delete it. Right? Let's say I put other language and I actually wanted to choose another tag. Just remove it from here and then choose the right tag, right? But of course, do not, if you do have the right tag, do not remove it. That is also going to send data back into the system for us to look at it, analyze, and track things, right? Very important, please do not forget the no valid ID. That one is like super, super important. We want to make sure everyone who wants to go out and vote, has an ID, right? We don't want people to be thrown away when they go to the polls. So this one, it's a very, very important that they don't have a valid ID. If you click here on edit profile, it gives you the option to change names, add notes, and follow-up comments. So if there's things that we're not capturing here with the text, please feel free to add notes and follow-up comments, right? That will help us as well. So please feel free to do that. Now, if the person says, like I mentioned earlier, do not text me, remove me from your list, stop, and things like that, or if they're very like rude, you know, like if they're cursing at you, if they say they're gonna sue you and things like that, one, do not argue. You don't have to respond, right? You can just not, especially if they say do not text me, do not text them back, right? Because we're just gonna respect what they want, not to be texted, so we're not gonna reply back. And to opt them out, you're gonna click here where it says opt out at the top. And then here, right, it's gonna ask you, why are we opting out? Joe, and here we're just gonna put here, do not text, and continue. Now, you don't have to choose do not text. If the person was just rude, right, just click continue and it will take it. But please put do not text, and that will take it back into our system, and that way it will also mark it. Those people do not want to be texted now or later, right? So that way we're not texting them again. However, also will not text them again even if we try, as long as you opt them out. If you don't opt them out, then the system doesn't know. So please, very important for those people who just say stop texting me, click opt out. And that is for the most part it. Now, the other thing that I do want to mention really quick, if the people that you are texting, they're not like exclusive to you, okay? So anyone within your group is able to text them. So at the first hour, all the replies will go to you if you send the initial text. After the first hour, they're given out to the whole group, because we want them to be replied to as quickly as possible, right? So as you're sending messages, please don't wait too long to reply back. I will say, if you notice that you have messages, replies back, just reply as quickly as possible, especially if they're saying, oh yes, I'm going to vote, or I'm not sure. You know, those conversations, you want to reply as quickly as possible, because you know they're there and they're paying attention to their phone. So please try to reply as quickly as possible to those messages that you're getting. But let's say you finish, you know, the hour or 2 hours that you were texting. Then once you log in back again, you'll see the replies here. Like as you can see here, I have these ones from the previous campaign. But you'll see here the replies. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna be renaming the campaigns, because I did not realize for some of you, you might see the multiple ones. That way we can see that it's voter mobilization, right? So you'll have the replies. Once you click on begin sending replies, it will take you to the conversations, right? Oh, look, this one, Jeffrey. So I like it, well, not that I like it, but this person said to stop texting me, right? So I'm just gonna put here opt out, right? Do not text, continue. And then of course it's telling you, are you sure this is gonna be undone? And I'm gonna say, yes, this person wants to be opt out. and now we are no longer able to text that person, right? And you can find them all your workflows here, your conversations here, right? These are all the people that I have texted, right? As you can see, it's people that right now and also people from before that I have had access to through the workflows that I was given access to. Okay.
So I know we're a little over time, but I wanted to see if there's any like burning questions or concerns for folks before we move on.
Yeah, because I cannot check the chat.
I'm not getting.
Oh, there's a question from Crystal Mendes. Do you have advice as far as how many texts we should send in an hour max? Because we don't want to text too many people that we aren't able to reply back to them all. So it's a good question, right? So what we know, this is, remember, a cold list. So you're not gonna have as many replies. I will say, like, you're gonna get, depending on the amount of replies that you have, you might get to send between 600 and 800 texts per hour and still be able to reply in a good, in not way too long to reply to them. So so you should be fine on that. Now, I do want to mention that this list, you might get through them quickly because especially those of you like that have already made multiple passes in your dialer, right? The dialer cleans up the list. So for those, some of you might have like 9,000, 10,000 numbers to check, but some of you might have like 7,000 or so because the list was already cleaned up, right? All the disconnected, a lot of wrong numbers came off, people that you already talked to. So your list is smaller than it was at the beginning, right? So I would say like most of you will get through the list pretty quickly, like within a day or two, depending on how many people you have texting. But we do want to make sure that like you reply to them quickly. So don't just text it all, right? Make sure that you reply back. Another thing that we want to mention is we are not sending the list to a second pass this week. We're only doing one pass of the list. We're texting the full list once this week. We're texting the full list once next week. And then once again, the third week of early vote. And depending on how that response was, we might do a fourth pass, right? We're gonna text the list again, the GOTV weekend, the weekend of elections. Now, every time you text it, your list is going to get smaller and smaller, and you're gonna be able to text it quicker, right? And something that we're really trying to get for people to do is like, would you commit to go out and vote, right? But we want them to go out and vote like now during early vote, not later. So that's something like we also like want to make sure that you all know. We're trying to encourage people to go out and vote now. So if your list finishes, right, then you're done for the week. On Monday, they will be refreshed. They will be ready to go again. But for this week, we're only doing one pass. We also, don't want to text people 4 times, in the same day. That's just, we're going to get a lot more do not text me. So we want to make sure there's some time before the first pass and the second pass, at least a few days, right? So no, we start today for the text. Now, this is it, right? So you all, in theory, like this is it on the training. What I'm going to ask everyone right now, because I need to know like the groups that are here, and because not everyone was signed up to our online form, then that is going to slow us down to get you into the system, right? I'm going to ask you to please sign into our online form, okay? So because we need your phone number to add you to the workflows. We added a few already. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be actually testing it for just to make sure that it works with some of the folks that we already have, right? To make sure that this one works. So it should be working. So we'll send it. We'll finish it in a bit. John, and by the way, for those of you who have not met John Moore, it's helping with the systems as well, right? Actually, Oscar, can you go back to let me stop sharing my screen. to the presentation. If you have issues, right, we do have a frequent asked questions. For the most part, that the issues that we've seen in the past is when a person is not able to use their email address that they had in the past because they no longer have access to it, or they have a different phone number, but the email address was the same, right? Or they don't remember their password. So those are some of the things that we've seen that people have the most issues with. We're putting the frequent asked questions here on the chat. Now, we add an agent to the workflows. However, we cannot reset your password. We cannot like change your email. That's something that you have to do. We cannot change your phone number. Once we add it, that's something, and once you sign in, that's something you have to do in your own profile in Hustle. So something that like we're adding there in the frequent asked questions, it's the email for Hustle. You will have to send out an email to Hustle support and let them send your email address and the phone number that you had with those, with your credential, with your account. And if you're changing another like phone or email, then send the new one that you want linked to. Like I said, we are not able to troubleshoot that for you, right? The account that you're creating is your own. We only add you to a specific workflow, but you create your own account. So what I'm going to be doing here, thank you, Oscar. If you can go to the next link, just to remind people, right, that here are the resources. Once again, these ones are the same resources that we have as for the phone calls. These are the same things, so you will not have like if you already have used them for the phone calls, these are the same ones that you're using for the text. People are going to be asking about the same things when it's already when it's early vote, which is my closest polling location and the like. So all of it is very, very similar to what you've seen in the dialer. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to drop here in the chat the link to the sign up form for today's training. And like I mentioned, we really need your phone number in order to give you access to the workflows. So please fill out this form if you did not sign in using this form.
Really quick, so number 3 on the FAQs, it says you have to email support at Hustle. So if you do get stuck, make sure to email support at Hustle. But okay, well, thank you everybody. If there isn't any last questions, we'll be hopping off right now and we'll close off.